You're listening to The Vidaurri Effect with your host, Rudy Vidaurri, owner of the Apex Predator MMA Gym in Rancho Cordova, California, co-hosted by Jennifer Steele. Now here's Rudy. It's on.
My name is Sensei Rudy Vidaurri. I am the owner and head coach of the now two-time Best Martial Arts Club of Rancho Cordova for 2022 and 2023 Apex Predator MMA. And you're listening to The Vidaurri Effect. Today we're talking about hope. Hope is something that very much is a fire that's always burned in my soul. You know, no matter where I was at, no matter what was going on, I had hope. And I think everybody out there listening to me right now, I want you to think about what your hope is. What drives you? What makes you hopeful? I've been dealing with an incredibly difficult set of circumstances lately, which I'll elaborate more at a later time, but right now I'm focused on the good. I got a lot of hope. Got a lot of good things going on. Winning awards, we're winning tournaments. We got some cage fights coming up for the gym. You know, I'm making some changes for myself and in my life that I think will be better for me in the end. Just got a new car. I got a Maserati. I've always wanted one. In fact, I just beat a Tesla up on Hazel Avenue, hauling ass. That gives me hope. You know, and it makes me happy. So when you start thinking about the things that make you hopeful, no matter what it is, and you don't necessarily have to be in the perfect stage in life to have hope. You can be down and out. You know, with me, I knew that no matter where I was as a free spirit, I didn't always know where I was going. I just knew when I got there what it was going to be and that I had arrived. And right now I feel like I've arrived. You know, earlier in life wasn't that well, and it wasn't that way. It's a lot of struggle. We've talked about this. If you've listened to my podcast before, and if you haven't, get caught up. But, you know, there's definitely been the struggle. And all throughout the struggle, I never stopped. I never stopped believing. I never stopped having hope. And this was something that was tested. You know, it was something that was challenged and tested and beaten to the ground, but the fire just would not go out. And, whatever other people's hopes and expectations were for me, I think sometimes people thought I had lost it. I was considered a fuck up, a failure at points, but I always knew that wasn't me. I always knew where I was going. I always knew that once I shook off the distractions and the struggle and the hurdles that I was dealing with in life, it was just going to be sky's the limit. You know, what do you think, Jen? How's your hope? You
know, hope is interesting. I think a lot of the times we forget to try to have hope, and you have to remind yourself to really dig in and be hopeful. I've gone through some stuff too, some personal struggles this past year, my job, my health. And that's funny because one thing I have been trying to focus on lately is, instead of asking why this all happened to me, I've been trying to just be hopeful that it's going to get better. And you know it will. I mean, when you hit a certain point, you can only go up, I think. So that is the good news, right? And the challenge, I think, is trying to just grab onto that and really focus and see it. Right? Visualize it.
Absolutely. And I think that's should be the focus of anybody who's really struggling right now. You know, like you said, it's just a fire that won't go out. You know, it might just be a spark, but sometimes that's all you need, you know, despite what you're going through. I've talked about having things to look forward to, you know, and that's something that's always made me really happy every day, whether it's a meal or a song or a friend or, you know, a certain thing that I was going to coach in class for the day. I think that hope is very much something that enables us to look forward to things, you know, and in life, whatever your goals are, and if you're realistic about setting goals, hope is something that's very easy to, you know, keep sight of. You know, goals are something that I think streamline with hope. They go hand in hand. If you look at the way I was able to kind of climb out of my struggle and get to where I am now, it was through small goals, small daily achievable goals, weekly goals that turned into monthly goals. And then all of a sudden the big stuff didn't seem so insurmountable. And now all of a sudden I'm reflecting a little bit. Not that I feel like I'm all the way to the ceiling of where my potential is, but like I can at least be at a point now where I can reflect and look back and appreciate the body of work in large part without the concern that it can all be taken away. I now have an established foundation, and I think that all was because of goals I set for myself and something I preach in class a lot, and we do a guided meditation at the end of the MMA sometimes is just, what's your goal? You got to visualize it. You got to see it. You got to make it. I know probably for you too, right?
Well, one thing I love about you, congratulations on the car, by the way.
Thanks, it's badass.
I have to say it's badass.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very badass.
Hell
and
yeah.
you know what? I think it's okay to have a nice car to feel good about, because it's the little things, and maybe it's not such a little thing, but it is the little things sometimes that help you just feel good, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think you should feel guilty for wanting to have those things in your life,
Not
first
at
of
all.
all. Hope. You know, one thing I've always admired about you, in listening to your stories and getting to know who you are, is your ability to pick yourself up and see where you want to go and go there. I mean, you know, your gym's kicking ass. You got the car, you've been through some real personal struggles, and you're not letting that affect you. And I think that's the real thing. Is it? One thing I hope people will get out of this podcast is, anyone can overcome the difficulties. You just have to want to do it. You know, like we said before one time, just be less negative, be more open to maybe you can overcome what you're going through. That's hope.
I want you to remember these 5 words is another stripe on the tiger. You know, and anytime I'm dealt a setback or something that's challenging or an attempt to hold me back, it's another stripe on the tiger. You know, and I've always felt that way, and I've always summed it up as much, and that's something that's always just kind of kept me going, you know, and kept me hopeful. And it's okay. At this point, it's just another stripe on the tiger, you know. And yeah, the car, while on the surface, is just a car, but you know, it's okay to have goals, and it's okay to have things to show for your goals. You know, I wouldn't have been able to buy this car without working as hard as I do. I work 7 days a week lately. You know, my gym is growing, and with the growth comes additional responsibility, and I'm up to the challenge, you know? So yeah, it's okay to have rewards for your hope and for your goals. And I think that should also be something that you make note of, is that, hey, you know, not only for your personal growth, which is the most important part of it, but that you should set something aside for yourself as a goal to achieve, so that you can get new things or do something for yourself or treat yourself to something extraordinary that you usually wouldn't.
Whether they're little things or not, or big things, I think you have to start with little things so they're attainable, and you can show yourself and reward yourself right away, and show yourself that, you know, yeah, if I keep going, I can find things to feel good about. Because I think that a lot of the time people get maybe very desolate and very sad, and just can't see that. I know some people who deal with really bad depression, and fortunately, I'm not a person who's ever really had to deal with depression at a clinical level. I've always found some way to make it that tomorrow's a new day.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that helped me through a lot of situations, and I would come back and deal with stuff later when I was ready to deal with it, you know. And there's 2 schools of thought on that too, but I think that some people get very desolate and don't see any good things and don't have any hope at all. And you know, ask around, ask your friends, ask a doctor, ask someone to help you find small things to feel good about.
Having hope is something that I think, regardless of whether or not you're struggling or whether you're doing well, is always something you can have, you know. And I think having a quick memory for the bad stuff and being able to get past it, you know, they talk about for quarterbacks in the NFL having a quick memory. You throw an interception, you still have to go out in the following drive and try to execute, you know. And having the hope for the next opportunity immediately thereafter, I think, is probably the key to it, is not getting too high or too low about things one way or another. You know, if you can find that balance and just be able to be cool when the temp goes up, you know, and, you know, celebrate for a day when the good things happen, and just kind of brush the bad things off as they go. You know, it's a great way to approach life, and it's worked for me. You know, I won a speech writing contest for the Optimist Club when I was in 8th grade. You know, but it's something that always resonated with me, and something that I think the key phrase that won the speech contest was that without hope there is nothing. You know, and if you're somebody who has given up hope at this point, and you're listening to this and you feel cynical and you're thinking, well, what the hell good is it going to do for me to get up and go out? Because every time I go out, something bad happens, or every time I get in a relationship, I get dumped. And, every time I get a job, I get fired, or every time I try in life, I get beaten down, is that you should stop feeling sorry for yourself, one. And two, you need to try, because without the effort, you're never going to know if something's going to work out, and like that can be the smallest dose of hope. It doesn't have to be you have this ecstatic feeling about, today I'm going to win the lottery, and go out and all of a sudden it's like, some commercial or some weird, Twilight Zone where everything is bizarrely lining up for you, and then it's too good to be true. It's okay for good things to happen. I think if you start to have that mindset and you start to manifest that and allow for things to kind of start to create that momentum and build themselves that way, you'd be surprised at what kind of falls in when you have a less cynical attitude.
Yeah, I think we buzzkill ourselves all the time, like we ruin our chances to be happy because we think it can't happen for us, or, no, that's not going to happen for me, or something good happens and you don't know how to handle it. So you pass it by and you don't let it happen, and don't be afraid to go ahead and feel good once in a while, I guess is the thing.
I think self-sabotage should be an episode that we completely dedicate, to this podcast at the near future, because self-sabotage really, like you said, is a critical error when it comes to the hopes of anything that you aspire to. I've been there. In my early 20s, I sabotaged a lot of things that could have gotten me ahead, but the process for me was such that I had to go and take my lumps and, suffer the challenges and bruises that I did earlier in life to become this strong, and so I think, you have to learn to differentiate what the things are in life for you listeners that are self-inflicted or that are happening to you that are still somewhat within your control. And if there's things that are still happening to you that are out of your control, you still have the ability and the control over your own mindset and how you respond to those things and how you react to those things. And, whether or not it's going to make a huge difference, I think having a better mindset about it gives others strength, and especially if you have children or if you have people that look to you or people around you, or even if you don't have anybody, how do you want to be remembered? Somebody that just gave up on everything or somebody that fought?
Yeah. And I think it's about having appreciation and being grateful and learning all those things as you go, that at some point in your life, then you finally are able to put that all into place. I've had jobs that I lost because I was too comfortable and I just felt like of course I have this job, and I didn't pay enough attention to them and I ended up losing them, and I think at this point in my life, like I'm with a new radio station now and I'm grateful to be there. I'm happy to be there. I'm grateful for the work. I'm grateful to be part of such a great team. And that's the way I'm approaching it this time.
And I think that's healthy. I think that without regret, looking back on the opportunities that we may have squandered for ourselves, without regret, let me point that out again, I think is good, because we had to learn and we had to grow and we had to step up as people to get the kind of insight and build the kind of character it takes to appreciate and have the gratitude and the wisdom to succeed in those roles now, and I think probably earlier on, deep down, either we knew we weren't ready or we were ready and we just weren't prepared to take on that responsibility. And so you sabotage, but once you get to a certain point and you get to a certain age and, we have figured it out, but unlike us, there's a lot of people that still have yet to figure it out. And it just becomes not a phase. It becomes who they are, and they self-sabotage and they repeatedly fuck things up without, having a good excuse to do so. I think you have to look at yourself in the mirror and you have to think and ask yourself, why is this something you do? And I want you to look at a few different examples to my listeners right now of things that are good barometers or measuring sticks, if you will, to kind of see how you handle your hope, and how you handle your hopes. Are you the kind of person that's in a relationship that fucks things up and goes out and speaks too much in the beginning and tries to get all your bad stuff out there out of fear of getting rejected, and then you sabotage, are you the kind of person who at work, knows you're going to be late, but does it anyway and goes out late the night before? And, you know, are you the kind of person who just flat out rejects all your responsibilities because you're too lazy to do it? You know, and these are things that you can start to ask yourself, you know, if you're failing in work and you're failing in your relationships and it's not your fault, you know, you've been conditioned this way, you know, but you also have to, at some point, take a stand and make your own decisions and stop making excuses for why you are a certain way. And you have to stand up to life and make it happen.
It's hard to admit that stuff about yourself sometimes too. I mean, you know, I don't like to admit it, but sometimes I'm lazy about stuff. and you want to know why you're not getting where you want to be or why something's not happening. Well, you have to take a good hard look at yourself, and it's hard to admit that stuff to yourself sometimes. It's like, well, then you have to look at, why did I get lazy? You know, and what is the situation? The other thing I wanted to say real quick is, do you remember, did your grandparents ever say, youth is wasted on the young? Did you ever hear that phrase?
Yeah.
Okay. I never really understood it until this point in my life, that youth is wasted on the young, which
until
means...
we got old.
Yeah. So when you're older and you don't have the time and you don't have the time ahead of you to be able to take all these things that you know now and run with it, like if I knew this when I was 20, I would look where I'd be now, you know? So it's good, you know, listen to Rudy. Listen to what he's saying to you now. If you are in your 20s, if you are in your 30s, you have so much time ahead of you if you can work on this stuff now, think about where you'll be.
Absolutely. And thank you for saying that. You know, I think the hope from within, you know, is also not to create false hopes for yourself. I think hope can be very genuine. It can be very sincere. But I think the dangerous side of hope, if you're not prepared for what comes with it, you self-sabotage, is creating false hopes for yourself. And you have to be realistic about different things. You have to be realistic about money. You know, if you're hopeful that you're going to be a millionaire, but you're just talking about it because you listen to it in a song, and, you know, you're still stuck at the same minimum wage job and you're just dreaming, you know, you should probably shut your mouth and go actually put in the footwork to try to become a millionaire, you know. Or if you're hopeful about having the girl of your dreams or finding one and you're just walking around with a false swagger and false cockiness and sense of confidence, you know, girls don't like that stuff, you know. Or, you know, if you're doing anything just to kind of project to the world that you're hopeful, but you don't really have what it takes to back it up, you need to be advised that that's also a slippery slope. You know, that's nothing that you want to be, because then people look at you and it's a joke. Nobody's going to take you seriously. And
if you don't have what you need to make it happen, go out and figure out how to get what you need to make it happen. You know, talk to people who are successful. Successful people love to talk about how they became what they are. Oh, yeah. They love to mentor people. And they always say that, you know, like if you're a good boss and you nurture your employees and you're good to them, that it's only going to be better for you in the end. Some people are threatened by that, but that's not the kind of person to be.
Fuck them. You know, that means you're just a hater, you know, and if you can't appreciate someone else's success, then, you know, you have to look at what your own insecurities are and your own, you know, inferiority complex or whatever the case may be, you know. Especially, you know, you'll see who your friends really are once you start doing well for yourself, you know. And it's just kind of funny. Even with the car this week, I saw some jealousy from some people that was surprising, but nonetheless expected, you know. And I saw some real appreciation from some people, and, you know, it's just a car, but it still like shows people's true character sometimes. I think, you know, people like to talk about success because it's something that they've worked hard for, you know, and partly why I have this podcast, you know. But, you know, if I just talked about me the whole time, you know, and waxed about, you know, how much ass I kick and all this stuff, it wouldn't be helpful to others. So, you know, the point is here is that you guys listen and, get close to people that are doing well, you know, and start to try to make, you know, realistic steps in the right direction that are manageable for you, and surround yourself with people that also have hope and that are hopeful for you. Because if they're doing something right, chances are you could learn a thing or two from them, you know. And it's not too hard. You know, I know time is limited these days. People get done with work. They want to get off. They want to go have a beer and get a burger and go home and watch some bullshit sitcom. That's not my style. You know, like, I think there's plenty of free work out there. There's internships. There's things you can be doing outside of your full-time job, you know, volunteer time or on weekends in the field that you really dream about. You know, if you have hopes to do and be that guy and get out there and kick that ass, you have to go and you have to sacrifice, without sacrifice, you're not going to go where you need to be. And any free time, I'll tell you what, as you get older, there is no free time. I'm working 7 days a week. I work my ass off, and when I'm not at the gym, I'm working on cookbook recipes. I'm here working on the podcast. I'm thinking of business development. I'm at tournaments, kicking ass. We're at cage fights. We're lining up. I'm talking to promoters. It never stops. But this is my grind, and this is what I love to do. So it makes it that much more rewarding.
And look at all the people who are benefiting from what you're doing, and it's, if you're lucky enough to be a student of Rudy's or, just a friend or someone who's seen what he's done, you're very lucky to be there because he really cares about what he's doing. I think you really care about your students and the people you work with. And, you got to find somebody like that to work with in your field. There are organizations, there are volunteer opportunities, like you said, in the field that maybe you want to be in, and that can only help you because look at all the people you're going to meet, and who will see your talent and who will appreciate what you're doing, and ultimately that leads to opportunities. I really appreciate you saying that. Yeah, and my level of intensity, with Apex Predator has been, at least what I think is second to none. I give everything I do. I put everything I've got into this gym. Because I feel like people deserve the very best I have to offer. It's a small place. It's 1,500 square feet. I'm competing with big-time gyms that have fighters in the UFC, and we're getting there. Got some up-and-comers. We're in the newspaper again this week in the Rancho Cordova Independent. Got a young prodigy that I'm training. He kicked ass at the tournament a couple weekends ago down in the Silicon Valley, and he's fighting in his cage debut in July 15th. At the Primal Fighting Championship, Victor Doring. And also his training partner, Trent, and these are guys that have the ability to go train at bigger gyms. And Trent actually did train at, I won't name names, but at the biggest gym in town. And they came to me because they wanted that personalized training and to foster a coach-student relationship where I would invest everything I had in them and they wouldn't just be a fly on the wall whose name was unknown, and that trickles from the top down, whether it's guys that are fighting, at the pro level or people that are just coming in to lose weight or to learn how to defend themselves. I give everything I've got because I know that in the end, not only is that what I'm remembered for, but I think I want to help people, and I think people need to see that I can match their energy and bring them to where they need to be and help them achieve their goals. Bigger is not always better. And your success... Well, in some cases, right? Yeah, that's what she said. As far as gyms go, right. Big and flashy and, huge and number one in Sacramento, right. Who cares about that? You know what I mean? You want to find somebody who's going to really care about you, like Rudy just said, and really give a shit about you. And what you're doing. So whatever field you're in, find that person. Keep looking, and you don't have to look big. Look in small places too. Yeah, it's hidden gems. And sometimes I think that really translates to a lot of other phases in life. I think sometimes people get so impressed and so caught up in the flash of different things, and they want to be part of these different groups or popular. And sometimes you can even look at it as the kind of people you approach in relationships. Like I know early on, I went for a lot of girls that were just all looks and no substance, and it's a dead end. I think you need to look for real, and real is far more important than anything else in life, and whatever it is you do, whether it's your relationship, whether it's your job, whether it's how you train, whether it's how you eat, be real. It's going to get you that much further. Don't follow the crowd. What was the one thing, in your opinion, before we wrap things up here, that pushed you over the edge to start your own gym and start to be the success that you are now? I was in my mid-30s and just kind of going through and coming out of a situation where I had 2 felonies I had to overcome, and I had just gotten expunged. And I was selling cars because I was finally able to do so and attain a sales license after not being able to really get a corporate job because of my background check. And before that, I had shoveled shit at farms. I was a cowboy at a raw milk farm in Wilton, which I really loved, actually. But, I worked all kinds of oddball jobs. And,
and finally I was in this corporate world and I thought it was going to be a payday. And, it just turned out to be like, here I am in my mid to late 30s, and I'm not happy doing this. And like, this isn't what I want for myself, and then I started training again, and I lost my son. I had twins, and one of them passed away a week after birth. He died in my arms. I had a chance to play him Touch of Grey by the Grateful Dead and hold him as his heartbeat stopped once we pulled the plug. At that point, I realized that life was too short, and I would be doing everything in my power from that point on to honor him and to live in his memory and do all the things that I ever wanted to do in my life the way he couldn't. Ronan, rest in peace. And his brother Sonny is alive and well, and I love my little guy. He's 4 years old, and I got a daughter, who's 10 years old now, and I love them both with all my heart. And I wanted them to see their father go out and be inspired and not fall apart. I wanted to go out and open something that not only was going to be able to survive in an incredibly difficult climate, but thrive. And, I coached and I worked my way up, and I was able to open my own gym, and, all of a sudden the milestones start coming, winning all these tournaments and third at nationals, and then, winning the awards for the best martial arts club in Rancho Cordova for 2022. And then for 2023, and making the Rancho Cordova Hall of Fame. And I just interviewed with the Marquise Who's Who of America, and it was an hour-long interview, and I made the list, last week I made the list, and all of a sudden all the milestones and all the accolades and all the things, it's just, it used to be like, oh man, this is so awesome, I got to tell everybody, and I'm so happy, and now they're becoming so frequent that it's like, I guess, I'm doing something right.
Congratulations on all of that. That's awesome.
Thank you. And it's a little bittersweet because if you think about what inspired me to do it, I lost my dad at an early age. I lost my son at an older age. And it's not like there isn't struggle now either, but I find clarity through that. And I think that's really the driving force behind everything I do. Behind everything I do is adversity. It's forged in adversity, and it's driven me to be the best.
I think you're a great example of hope.
Thank you. I think you are too.
Thank you.
I want everybody out there that's listening to this episode today to be hopeful in yourselves, and hopefully by listening to our stories and some of the things we've had to share, that it's inspired you to do better. Set goals, believe in yourself, never give in and never back down. Stay blessed.
The Vidaurri Effect is a Steel Voices production, recorded, produced, mixed, and engineered at Cat House Studios by Jennifer Steele. Hosted and created by Rudy Vidaurri, owner of the Apex Predator MMA Gym in Rancho Cordova, California. More info and full episodes available at apexpredatormma.com, steelvoices.com, and wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for listening to The Vidaurri Effect.